Welcome to this week's edition of Daily Kos The Brief. It's our weekly show about politics. I'm Marcos Molitzis. I am here with Carrie Alaveld, and I think, Carrie, that this is our last show together of the year. Carrie she'll be hosting the show next week without me. I have next week off, so this is our last show together. And so we want to sort of set the table about what we're looking at as we look ahead to next year.
Right, and I want to make a plug. Going to be a barn burner next week because you never know what Carrie Elaveld does while Marcos Molitzis is away. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying.
So, So today we're going to talk about what we're looking forward to next year, and it's going to be. Sorry, everybody. Apologize in advance. It's going to be the most important election of our lifetime. And I think they're going to keep being the most important election of our lifetime as long as we have MAGA really presenting an overt threat to our democracy. We're going to be talking about the Trump GOP platform in a little bit, but they have completely openly embraced fascism. They're not pretending. They're not hiding anything. It's literally out in the open. And my theme is believe Trump when he says the things that he's saying. Because a lot of people in the media still want to pretend that, oh, it's just Trump being Trump. Believe Trump and all his people. People like Steve, what's his face? The Swengali. Oh my God.
You mean Steve Bannon? Is that
Bannon. Yeah,
Steve Bannon. Yeah.
Today was talking about jailing media people that have criticized Trump. I mean, just believe them. This is what they're trying to do.
But, yeah, I mean, the Daily Show, just to put a finer point on this, I'm pretty sure that these were like real headlines or pretty close to real headlines. And the Daily Show put out this list of real headlines, of course, to have a punchline at the end. But from The Atlantic, Trump plans fascism for second term. From the New York Times, Trump's Project 25 includes concentration camps. CNN, Trump vows to jail enemies without trial. MSNBC, Trump modeling second term after Hitler. I mean, these are pretty close. They aren't the exact headlines, but it's pretty damn close to what was reported. Spectrum One News, Trump says he will destroy the Constitution. He literally said he wanted to end the Constitution. And then Fox News. In 2011, Hunter Biden sent Joe Biden $40 on PayPal without selecting friends and family.
I mean, they're right now. Their big gotcha with Hunter Biden is that Joe Biden lent him $3,000 to buy a truck. And wait, you saw, right, Carrie? Hunter Biden paid him back.
Yeah, he paid him back. I know. And there's a picture of it. There's a picture of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden in front of the pickup truck.
And
literally, there's pictures.
And James Comer, who heads the investigative committee in the House, claimed that just because he paid him back doesn't mean that Joe Biden did not derive benefit from the payment. Yeah, of course he derived a benefit from it. He got paid back with no interest even. Just got paid back.
Yep.
Just got paid back. So actually with inflation, he lost a little bit of money. But that's sort of the absurdity of the GOP. But there's also the serious part of it, that the real agenda, which is essentially at this point, it's overt fascism. I don't think we can exaggerate that point. This is not hyperbole. We've talked about, this person, that person are fascist. This is a real fascism. But before we get to that, just want to sort of lay a broader table about what we're looking at, what next year is going to be all about. And here we're just really focused on the presidential election. We'll be talking about the House. We'll be talking about the Senate next year. Those are going to be big battles. But just the presidential election, it's going to be Biden versus Trump. So there's a 0.5% chance that Nikki Haley somehow does something. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's not very likely, though. People, I don't think, have internalized that it's going to be Biden versus Trump on both sides. People still imagine that there's this magical primary process that's going to...
I think you're right. And, I mean, like, they haven't internalized it's interesting that they haven't internalized that it's going to be Joe Biden, because I think there's a lot of Democrats that haven't even internalized that yet. But, if you're if you're like conservative and you're like not really paying attention, I mean, there is supposedly a primary happening. You know what I mean? Like it is a primary. it's, there is a very long shot that maybe, Haley makes a run at it. I do think that it would be useful for her to make a run at it and spend several months, like, because she's a good communicator, dissecting Trump, calling him out on, things related to foreign policy and things related to the Constitution and things relate, she said in the past, he totally ballooned the deficit. I want him to face some of these inconsistencies. And you can tell, I just want to say this too, and then I'll shut up and you can get going again. But you can tell he doesn't want to have this fight. He is like, he's not campaigning. And I mean, this is a point that other people have made. He doesn't seem to be campaigning with the same vigor that he normally does. And, he also is, I heard him say the other day, and I don't even know if it was during a speech. I think it was during a speech, and he was saying, well, we have to come together because, we don't want to drag this out in 2024, this, primary battle. He doesn't want to deal with it. So it would be nice to see someone who had the chops to kind of drag him through the mud a little bit, do it, even if she loses. I think that's potentially turn some soft Republicans off. Okay, you go ahead. We're setting the table.
All right, setting the table. So the next big piece is that the election is going to be decided in the battleground states. And there was a sort of freak out maybe a month or two ago when I think it was the New York Times had a series of battleground state polls that showed that Trump was up in some of the states. All of it was within the margin of error. And I don't know if the freak out, I'm not sure what the freak out was all about, because as I've been telling people, there is nothing new about finding out that the battleground states will be battlegrounds.
That it's close.
The battleground states will be battleground states. And we're talking about Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and then a little bit off to the side, you have North Carolina, which should be a battleground state. It seems to hover 3 points Republican every year, but theoretically.
Listen, Biden lost it by 1 point in 2020.
Yeah. So those are. Did I miss anybody? I don't think I missed any.
Arizona? I don't know. Did you get the Rust Belt states that we're not supposed to call them Rust Belt states, but Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin?
I did. So Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, North Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, 6 states.
Yeah, 6 states.
6 states will decide the presidential election. And so when you see polls that show that any of those 6 states are close, don't be surprised. I mean, we want to think that the vast majority of Americans look at Donald Trump and are freaking terrified at what he promises. That's just not the America that we live in. And in those 6 states, things are pretty freaking tight. Yeah. Now, we will talk about this more next year. I like where we are more than I like where they are. I'd rather be us than them. But anything less than an all-out effort by our side, including the get out the vote operation, getting people registered, getting people to the polls, making sure everybody votes. Like, without that, we can very well lose, and Donald Trump could be president. And it might be, as Liz Cheney said, might be the last presidential election in our lifetimes. This is the reality of what we face. So don't be surprised that it's competitive. And don't be surprised that those states are really going to decide. Every other state, I don't think. I mean, in a blowout, maybe some of these states, Ohio, Iowa, Florida. But if Biden is winning that, like, it's a blowout, right? And it's like, there's no way that Biden wins Florida, loses Michigan, right? Like, those are the 6 states that are really going to decide it. Anything beyond that is gravy for either side. So that's where we're at. And it's going to be ugly. It's going to be frustrating. Carrie, there was 2 stories. There's a sort of like new genre in journalism that I'm absolutely fascinated by. And that's reporters talking to voters saying really weird stuff, and then the reporters correcting them to the great surprise of these voters, right? So the first one was a New York Times story. And
can I just say, this is news to me. I haven't seen this genre, so I'm excited
Okay.
I'm eager to hear about
All
it
right.
because it sounds great.
So there is a story by New York. So New York Times ran these polls, right? And one thing that they found is that there was this weird genre of if Kamala Harris was a nominee, these people would support Kamala Harris, but if it's Biden, they support Donald Trump. Like, okay, so you're trying to make sense. What is that? So they actually called some of these individual respondents to ask them a question. And one of them was a woman who said, "Well, I'm a single issue abortion voter, and Kamala Harris is pro-abortion rights, but Joe Biden is not." And so the reporter's like, "Wait a second. First of all, Donald Trump is not a abortion supporter, but Joe Biden is absolutely an abortion supporter." And so she changed her vote. She said, "Oh, okay, I'm Joe Biden, but I didn't know that because abortion rights ended when he became president." So this is a reminder that we are very plugged in. We are paying attention. What seems to be the most basic, most obvious, the sky is blue political fact, in fact, may not be so obvious to people. So it's going to be incumbent on both the Democrats, obviously, to remind voters that they and Joe Biden is actually for abortion rights, and that the reason we do not have them is because of a conservative Supreme Court that Donald Trump, in large part, installed with Mitch McConnell's help, et cetera, right? We have to be kind to those people, I think. We can't be like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
such idiots. Like, oh, why are they so stupid and apathetic? You know what? People have multiple jobs. They have kids to raise. They have an elderly parent they're taking care of. Like they're like trying to survive. A lot of people are trying to survive. They don't have time to pay attention to politics the way we do, even basic level politics. And conservatives have polluted the information space.
Oh
So
yeah.
everybody's freaking confused because everybody's yelling at each other. They want to tune it out because it's ugly, it's confusing. They don't know how to make sense of it. So there has to be kindness in our heart. But the second story was a Washington Post story. And this one was also great, right? So the reporter talking to some voter, and this voter is very anti-Biden because you know what he wishes Democrats did, and I wish I had the story with me right now. But he's like, they need to give tax breaks to low-income people, and they need to go after tax cheats that are millionaires and billionaires, and then they need to do more for healthcare, and so basically, again, it was the Democratic wish list, right? And so the reporter sent this voter a bunch of newspaper articles about how Biden supports a child tax credit. They expanded the IRS in order to go after billionaire and millionaire tax cheats, and all these policies that he was talking about. And this voter's like, "Oh, yeah, this is what I was talking about. I guess Joe Biden doesn't sound so bad after all." That's what I
Yeah.
guess Joe Biden. And he said, "But no, the media didn't tell me this." And the thing is, there is quote media that reports this, right? But there's something like imagine the New York Times reporting, "Well, Democrats pass a child tax credit." Who's reading that aside from hyper engaged and politically active people?
Right.
It creates and Republicans, of course, again, are polluting that information space. So when he says that the media didn't tell me, he means he didn't see it on Facebook. That's probably what he means. Maybe didn't even see it on Fox News. Who knows? Maybe this guy watches Fox News. So we have to understand that people really don't understand what this election is really about. They don't know what Joe Biden has done. They don't know what the Democrats have done. And they almost the Republican platform right now is so cartoonishly evil that I don't think people will believe it when we talk about that to the point where I'm like, just listen to Donald Trump,
Just
listen
listen to them.
to Steve Bannon, listen to them, and just believe them. Because Carrie, I know you've been writing about this Republican platform. I'm gonna unleash
Well,
you here because it's mind-bogglingly, it's cartoonishly evil.
it's cartoonishly evil and bad, and like not just cartoonishly evil, but also just like bad politics. I mean, cartoonishly like
It's still yes,
political malpractice at the same time, right?
right.
So, I mean, first of all, let's just say we've all known for a while some of these things that are going to be on the ballot next year. A national abortion ban. Okay, it's like a 2/3 loser for them. They like lose 2/3 of the country on that.
And I'm going to pat ourselves on the back because we were talking about abortion before anybody thought abortion was going to be an issue, but we saw that
Right.
coming.
Everybody was like,
Nothing.
no, it's not gonna be. And we were
Yeah.
like, I had such a gut feel about it even before, and not just because
Right.
of the polls, but because I know what it's like as a queer person when we watched, uh,
Yeah.
marriage rights get pulled back, it get taken away in California, and what that did to the movement, right? The way it like galvanized the movement and energized them and made them just like, we're not going to settle for anything less. And I just knew that it would be different than after 50 years of talking about, well, pro-life versus pro-choice, when the right was actually lost. I just knew it would be different. And anyway, it was, as we know.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, but then so you've got the national abortion ban that Republicans want to push through, and they're still having you know I don't even want to go into too many particulars because they're all over the place on it. I mean, they definitely want to have a national abortion ban, but should we talk about it and should we not talk about it? I mean, they're trying to encourage themselves to talk about it, but like then some people are saying, well, we shouldn't talk about it in certain states because it's too good an issue. In Ohio, for Democrats, we don't want Sherrod Brown, the Democratic, senator that they're trying to pick off there in order to flip the seat. We don't want to have him be able to run on a national abortion ban. Well, sorry, it's going to be, he's going to be able to run on that because they're talking about it. It doesn't matter if they're trying to say, well, it's just a state issue and, this has already been decided at the state level. No, Republicans, including JD Vance, the other senator from Ohio, is saying we need to be talking about this, and then the 15 we can't back away from a 15-week abortion ban. So, that's going to be
some of them that are arguing that the reason they lost in Ohio and Kansas and Kentucky is that they didn't talk about it enough.
They didn't talk about it enough.
Which is
let me tell you, I know it's mind blowing, but they had this conversation after 2022. Sorry, they had this conversation after 2022 as well. We didn't talk about it enough. So they're going in circles. They're like chasing their tail on this thing. And no one has found the reason they're doing it is because no one has found, the way to unlock this, or in this case, lock back up the Pandora's box that they opened up when their conservative Supreme Court justices ended a right for pregnant folks across the country to be able to make their own healthcare decisions in concert, with their healthcare provider and their doctors. Anyway, so here's their platform. We're going to push a national abortion ban. We have to deal with Social Security and Medicare, and we're going to end it. We're going to end those subsidies, right? We're going to be done with Social Security and Medicare. We're going to either strip it back, or you have to be older to get it, or whatever they're going to do. But they're all in on ending Social Security and Medicare, two of the most popular programs in the country.
And just a reminder that Mitch McConnell ripped Rick Scott, who's running for re-election in the Senate in Florida, basically saying, have you looked at your constituency? This is Florida, and you're advocating for ending Social Security. And
right.
Yeah.
So, and then of course, democracy's on the ballot because it's Trump. And Trump is saying things like, I mean, it's no secret what they want to do here. Trump is literally saying, I want to end the Constitution. I am going to, get rid of the guardrails. I am going to prosecute my political enemies. And use the government as a tool of his political retribution. And Liz Cheney is out there with her new book tour for her new book, Oath and Honor. She is burying Republicans to the extent that she can, but saying things like, hey, listen, this might be, people need to understand this, just like you said earlier, this might be the last, if Trump wins, this might be the last election you get to vote in. And that's not hyperbole. She understands where Trump is headed if he gets his hands on power again. And the fact that there's going to be, she's seen this from the inside. There's going to be zero Republicans who stand up and say, no, don't do that. Zero, right? They've bought in now. They embrace him. So even the ones who once said, no, Trump's a bad news, even if they were saying it privately, they've just all out embraced him now. And she was having at it with Republicans for that too. Like somehow he's gotten better. So now he's okay. Are you kidding? But anyway, so there's that. So democracy's on the ballot now. So you've got three issues: national abortion ban, extremely unpopular. Ending Social Security, Medicare, extremely unpopular. Ending democracy. I would think that would be extremely
I don't know
unpopular.
if I've seen polling on that because it's just
It,
so. Why would you
it,
need the poll? Do you like?
it did not work well for them in 2022 as an issue because
Or
it was on
2020.
the ballot and people understood it in 2020, right? But on top of that, Donald Trump was like,
wait. There's more?
yes, yeah, oh, but wait, there's more, right? On top of that, Donald Trump was like, hey, this isn't a good enough platform on its own. We need to throw something else, another log on the fire, right? So let's go after repealing the ACA again. Let's end Obamacare because that wasn't a fucking disaster for them the first time around. I mean, like his lowest approval ratings as president came, and the Republican parties came while they were trying to and failed to repeal the ACA. They got it from both sides because there were a bunch of people who were like, oh no, don't take away my health insurance, and don't take away this health insurance that we fought for, that we sacrificed the House majority for as Democrats, and rallied around that. Indivisible.org came out of that whole grassroots organizing effort at the local level to make sure the ACA wasn't repealed. And then on top of that, when they failed to do it, and they'd been promising to do it for a decade, during Trump's presidency, all Republicans were like, you guys suck. So, like that was a total debacle for them. So he tweets that out last weekend, like a little over a week
For
ago.
no reason at all. Just there's nothing. It was apropos of zero.
He just pulled it out and just like out of the blue puts it out there. I'm sure his strategists were like, oh my effing God. And then he just proceeded to double down on it, to the point where he was eventually sorry. I had a little bit of cough cold. But anyway, he was having to say things like, well, let's see, where was it? Where was it that he said this? Shoot. I had it up and then I lost it. But he was saying things like, well, I don't want to repeal it. I want to replace it with something better. I don't want to take away health insurance. I want to repeal it, or I want to put something better in. So, he's like,
and clearly he's never put up he doesn't know anything better. Right? It's just,
no, I mean, he was going to build the wall too, wasn't he? He was going to hire the best people too, wasn't he? He was going to, this is just another one of his, just completely useless promises that he makes when he has no plan whatsoever. And he couldn't govern his way out of a paper bag.
Yeah. And Carrie, that's not all. There's more.
There's more. Okay. So we've got four things on the GOP platform that are fantastic. What else we got? You got
crimes. Lots of crimes.
Criming. Free criming with no no blowback, no consequences.
Republicans are hell-bent on nominating a guy that's facing 90-some counts of criming and will be sitting in courtrooms not all across the country, all across the eastern seaboard, from Florida to Washington to New York in the coming months. A lot of these are actually going to be taking place during Super Tuesday and between all sorts of delays and appeals and whatnot, maybe all the way up to election day. And so that's part of the platform. It has to be. You can't escape that. It's going to be all the news.
Yeah. Well, what's amazing is that he will likely the way the timing is shaping up, he will likely have potentially secured the nomination before we know whether or not he's convicted of any of these things. Because if he comes out of Super Tuesday and he's won a bunch of those winner take all states, he'll probably be unbeatable at that point. So, I mean, again, there's a slim Haley chance. There's not a slim DeSantis chance. No. I really don't think that's true. He's done.
Just to be very clear, because I know a lot of people fantasize about it, there's zero chance that he'll be he may be convicted. There's no chance he'll be in prison before the election. The appeal process will take years. So if he's ever in prison, if he wins the election, all that goes away because he's going to politicize. He's already made clear he can pardon himself for most of that stuff. And if Georgia somehow convicts him, he'll ignore it. He'll just ignore it because he doesn't care. It'll be you and what army?
Well, he'll probably just jail Fonnie Willis. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what he'll plan on doing.
In fact, a lot of Georgia Republicans have been trying to pass legislation that would basically strip her of her power, right?
Right.
And it's not getting anywhere yet because weirdly and thankfully, a lot of those top Georgia Republicans haven't succumbed to MAGA, but it's definitely an effort that would gain steam if Trump was elected. And if he's not elected, a couple years on the road, yeah, he might end up in jail. I would not really count it as much as we all want to see that, and it'd be hilarious, and we'd celebrate. It would be national holiday in half the country. We can't. That's not what's going to save us. Now, if he gets convicted, it'll be big news. Will it have political ramifications? I don't know how much of it is baked into people's decisions already, and maybe Carrie, you have some opinions on that. I suspect.
Well, I will say this. I think from a messaging standpoint, he has convinced people that, he's convinced the MAGA cult that he is being he's a victim, right? That he is being unfairly targeted because he's clearly the best option. I mean, all of these people, there were a lot of people who were kind of like, well, I don't know, I really like Trump before the primary really started, but people were starting to anticipate it. I really like Trump. But maybe we need someone who can win. Maybe we need someone better. Okay. Well, DeSantis failed to exploit that because he was such a wildly terrible candidate. He didn't have the skill set to exploit that opening. And also, on a personal level, he didn't have the skill set, but also probably executed a really bad strategy. But then the next thing is, once he in particular, because he was positioned to do it, once he failed to exploit that opening, then people were like, well, hey, there's really no other option, and Trump is and they're going after Trump because he's probably the best option. So Trump actually managed to message all of this, and the Republican called at this point. I mean, I'm not saying there aren't some outliers, right? There's definitely a slice of people who are Republicans still identified, but don't like Trump. But his cultists, this is all white noise to them now. They're not really paying attention to, what exactly is in these indictments, what he's accused of. They don't care. They're like, this is our guy. We've decided this is our guy. He's our best option because he can win and no one else can. And they're all in on him. So, but what you're always wondering is how much might a conviction hurt him at the margins with people who are like, and we do have some polling that suggests people, voters the Republican, of course, the completely spineless group of Republican lawmakers are just gonna, they're not gonna turn their backs on him. But when voters in the
private, I haven't read the news yet.
Yeah.
They're gonna be like,
did he get convicted? Are you sure?
I have to read the article. I don't.
Yeah. Exactly. That's exact. Oh God, it's so. It's just I can't even believe. I mean, Trump has taken over the state Republican parties. The House Republicans are completely, under his thumb now, and Mitch McConnell, who was supposedly the last bastion, and the super strategic Mitch McConnell, who was gonna save the establishment, missed his opportunity to impeach him because they didn't want to lead on that issue. And now, you see him backing away further and further. He's just receding further and further. He doesn't take on anything. The Senate is going to be exactly like the House. Senate Republican caucus is going to be exactly like the House Republican caucus in 6 years. It will be overrun by spineless and even very pro MAGA Republicans who turn that whole thing into a circus. just like in the House.
There's a
So
show to be had at some point to explore what happens if Trump loses, and if actually does that kill MAGA, and who knows what that might look like. But we'll put a pin in that because I'm absolutely fascinated by the idea, and I really hope we get to see what actually happens if we can actually drive a stake in the heart of MAGA.
I think
Or
it's
put
going to
another way,
take several election cycles. I
how
really do.
yeah, how many times can they lose before they as a party decide that okay, we need to cut out this cancer, this tumor that's called Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz and Donald Trump for the from the body.
Or
And they may lose.
separate from it.
Yeah, and they may lose for a few cycles, just like they did post Nixon. But you don't have to be in the wilderness that long. People have short memories, and they do love their lower taxes. So if they can go back to a party that was just really about "don't tax me, bro," who knows? They could rebound quickly. Don't
It'd be
tax
a
me, bro.
lot better than let's shred the Constitution, bro. I mean,
Right.
really.
And you know what? It's I'm willing to have that debate, a good faith debate on why government is important and what it can do to make people's lives better. That's a good one, as opposed to do we really need do we really need Liz Cheney and Nicholas Kristof and all these right wingers fighting with us because the Constitution is on the line? I mean, I would rather
No, we
them be
do.
on the other side. Let's argue about politics. Like I don't know.
We
Common
do,
sense?
and
Yeah.
they're a minority. I mean,
Yeah.
Liz Cheney isn't in the House anymore for a reason, and it's because she actually stood up and said, "This is wrong, and Trump is wrong, and Trump committed a heinous crime against the country. He has no business being near the Oval Office." And guess what? They could not let her stay, and it wasn't just electoral. I mean,
Mhm.
again, I'm not the first person to say this, but the more I think about this, it's because she was holding up a mirror to them. Can you imagine going over to work every day and Kevin McCarthy's like, "Hey, whatever you do during this press conference, Liz, shut up." And Liz gets asked a question and she's like, "Yeah, you know what? Trump's awful and we shouldn't be backing him, and he's a threat to the democracy." And here are all these super spineless, colleagues in her caucus who are being like, uncovered and exposed by her every time she opens her mouth, and what awful, like, spineless people they are. You know what I mean? They couldn't abide by that. That's why she's not a part of that caucus anymore. It wasn't electoral. They weren't going to lose their seats because of her.
Yeah.
Eh.
Yeah. So that's what we are looking at next year. We're looking at Trump versus Biden. We're going to see the rematch that I don't think anybody wanted to see that rematch. I don't think there's a single American who's like, yeah.
I think that's true. I think you're right about that.
And it's going to be 6 states. And again, those are Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Wisconsin. Those states are going to decide. Now, you may remember those states because we've been doing very well in some of those states. Pennsylvania, Michigan, even Wisconsin. We've had some great results. Um, Arizona and Georgia, we barely won them last time. Those are very tentative. So they're about as on a razor's edge as you can get. So
And
that's where
we're also winning a lot of special elections, in
so
the interim.
yeah, and we'll definitely dig into that next year because again, I like where we stand, but that assumes that we all work our butts off. I just want to sort of set expectations. Trump is not going to be easy to beat, but we can beat him, but we got to work for it. So we'll be beating that drum next year. And then we're also helped not just by demographics, not just by special elections, but by the Republican platform, which really comes down to ending democracy, ending abortion rights, ending Obamacare, healthcare, ending I mean there's even where they're like getting weird about divorce. They're going after no fault divorce.
Oh
They're going
God.
after contraception.
They're
I mean,
you're right. Contraception. Sorry. Can't do it.
so they're very, very, very weird. And you got Trump's crimes and the trials. There's a lot happening. None of it seems to be very good for the Republicans, except that they have a cult.
Right.
That's really the strength. And that's why all these other Republicans can't quit Trump because they're afraid of his cult. And that cult will turn out and vote in ways that they didn't maybe turn out in 2022, 2023. So we have to be ready for a climate that is different than we saw the last couple of years that we won. Doesn't mean a lot of our people didn't vote either, right? So this is not saying that it's going to be more Republican electorate. In fact, there's evidence, and we can talk about it again. We'll talk about it next year. There's evidence that it was a more Republican electorate last year than we'll have next year. And if that's the case, like, frick yeah, like that's gonna be great. But we have to work, guys. We're gonna have to work hard. Republicans are doing everything possible to make it easier for us to win that White House, and then obviously Senate and House as well. And it's going to be up to us to do all that work. So this is our last sort of opportunities, last couple of weeks of December. Take a deep breath, like rest up, meet with your family, have a merry old time, open presents, do whatever you do in the holiday season.
Go to the Rose Bowl. Yes, go to the Rose Bowl. I haven't seen a live game in forever.
Oh, you're going?
Over a decade. I'm legit going.
Oh,
wow. All of a sudden I was like, wait a second, because we live in California. I was like, holy cow. If Michigan, now I've got, I hope we're going to have, inevitably there's going to be some Ohio State fans out there who are like, I didn't know she was a Michigan fan. I've never listened to this stinking broadcast again. But anyway, sorry, I'm a Michigan fan. Go Blue. But when I realized that they were going to be, I was like, oh, well, the CFB rankings were coming out. The college football playoff rankings were coming out. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to be at the road. They're going to be in Pasadena. Like, that is driving distance. I mean, it's also, one could fly as well, but it's like a 5-hour drive. So I was like, I haven't seen a live game in over a decade. Anyway, you guys don't want to hear about this, but I'm super excited to go to the Rose Bowl and play Bama, Roll Tide Roll. I mean, it's going to be I hope it's a heck of a game.
All right. But you're reinforcing, have fun.
Yeah,
have fun these last couple of weeks of this year, because next year they're going to throw everything at the wall, trying to hope things stick. There's going to be deep fakes. They're going to be lying. They're going to be making stuff up. And they're going to try to make things as confusing to voters as possible so that they turn off voters. They need to turn voters off. So it's going to be our job. We're going to be talking to the people that think that Joe Biden ended abortion, and talking to people that think Joe Biden is against raising taxes on wealthy people and doesn't want to raise taxes on low-income people. Those people exist. We're going to be talking to them. We're going to use compassion and patience and understanding that not everybody pays attention like we do. And we're going to do the hard work it takes to win this election and win it big. And maybe we can drive that stake into MAGA.
That's right. And every one of you, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm just telling you, you are more engaged than the average bird.
Look,
by far.
99.9% for sure.
Right. Exactly. So, but every one of us has a role to play here, right? We're all messengers here. We're all messengers who can bring a message forward. And that's one of the things that I certainly aim to do, and we certainly aim to do on this podcast, is to give people, feel confident in the courage of their convictions about what they're discussing, but also learn how to do it in a way that lands, rather than, can come off as abrasive or turn people off or shut them down or whatever. An army of messengers is always better than just one messenger at the top.
And Carrie, that's a show next week, isn't it?
It is. Come back next week. We're having Jen Ancona on, and she's from Way to Win, and she's one of our favorite messaging gurus that we talk to. And I have a lot of questions for her, because there are some tough nuts we have to crack in order to get the right message to voters, to make sure they turn out, they understand the choices and what's at stake, et cetera. So join us next week.
So, Carrie, that is our show for today. Thank you so very, very, very much. Thanks to Walter for producing the show. Thanks to everybody who helps behind the scenes, like Perry and Paul. And thank you, the viewer, listener, writer, for being part of Daily Kos and part of our movement to rescue our democracy from the cartoonishly evil MAGA Donald Trump effort to literally, explicitly destroy our democracy. Everything is on the line. It has been for a while. I know it's tiring and exhausting, and we just want it to end, but they're not stopping. They're still fighting. And as long as they fight, that zombie keeps coming up. We got to do our part to make sure that they don't get anywhere near the levers of power anymore. It's up to us, me, you, Carrie, everybody listening and reading Daily Kos and being part of that. So thank you so much. cannot love you anymore, cannot appreciate the work that you do. This is the last time I'll be talking to you this year. So have a wonderful Christmas and New Year's. Wait, am I allowed to say Christmas? Because did I just ruin the liberal war on Christmas?
No, that's it. You're done. We're done. Our viewership, between that and me admitting to being a Michigan fan, I think it's over. We're canceled.
Hanukkah,
and happy Hanukkah, and
Kwanzaa and Festivus and whatever holiday or non-holiday that you practice. This is our time to really enjoy family and loved ones and friends and relax and recharge, because next year is going to be lit. Promise you that. So thank you so much. Catch you all. Carrie will catch you next week. Have a wonderful week.